Hi, my name is Pete Antoniak. I'm the author, um, product developer, and inventor of EdUGames. And the reason I say inventor is we actually have some patents on the technology. And what we essentially got a patent on it is we solve the problem of how do you know the answer, the person who's playing the game knows the answer. And if you think about a game where you're going to have to either type something in or use multiple choice, this is an alternative to that. And the problem with typing something in, of course, is that you can have various misspellings and you can have various variations of the answer that would be difficult to interpret. Multiple choice, on the other hand, is just tedious. So we're going on, and I'm going to start by actually going to the game itself. We're going to do that by going to share screen. And so this is the game. And what I've done is I've already pre-registered myself and a guy named Bill. So we're going to compete against each other. And the way the game is played is you can either play a set, which is we have different sets down here, and a set is a selection of rounds, and we're going to play rounds here. And if you want to play any one of these games, you can also have some information about essentially how many rounds, what the basic average grade level is, and stuff like that. However, what we're going to do is we're going to play the basic demo of how the game is played. So I'm going to step through that and we'll show you how it is. So we start by this. And between each one of the games, there's an explanation of how the game is played. So we'll go to the very first one here. And the question here is, where did this man make the biggest mistake of his life? So that's the question, the challenge here. But let me explain a little bit about the layout here. If you have any questions about how a game is played, you click here and it gives all the instructions about how the game is played, and an example, etc. And this up here is a slider that will increase the size of the question if you have problems. There's another slider over here we'll get into later that will increase the size of any text in the area if there's text boxes. The reason for this is that people may be playing this on laptops, pads, and what have you. We want to be able to adjust the size of the text to fit whatever they're playing. So the question here is, where did this man make the biggest mistake of his life? Well, we have an image of some guy here. He looks like he's in a Civil War uniform, and we have a map of the United States. Okay, so a lot of people will guess, well, obviously he made a big mistake and what have you. And most people say, well, assume it's Colonel Custer, and it is. But the question is, where do you make this big mistake? Well, if you know anything about history, it's the Battle of Little Bighorn. But where was that? Well, I always will put it where I thought it was, in the middle of North Dakota. And it's Bill's turn now, and Bill's going to put it down here, and we'll see where the answer is. Now, it's going to show the answer is this big triangular area here. Bill was closer than I was, and he gets 9 points out of 100 because we were both fairly close. Now, if we're to replay this, and I was, I think, as a Civil War general and put it down here. Again, Bill would put it where he thought it would, where he would normally put it. He gets 100 points. It's a ratio of how much closer the winner, the closest player, gets than the average of the other players. And so you don't have to be right in this game, just to be closer than the other players. Well, let's go on to the next one. And the next one deals with images. And right here, we have a big black space here. And you're challenged to click on parts of this image. And you get 2 clicks, and either you have to guess what it is if you know the answer, or pass. Well, how do you get the answer? Well, we have an alphabet bar going across here. So if we click at any one of the alphabet letters, we'll end up with all the answers starting with that letter. So if you know what the answer is, you get to it very quickly. You don't have to go through various multiple guesses and you look at each one and evaluate each one. Well, I don't know what it is. Oh, by the way, if you make a wrong guess and eventually win, your points are halved for every wrong guess. So 2 or 3 wrong guesses, even if you eventually win, won't get you very many points. So that's a penalty for just guessing. Let's go on to the next player. It's Bill's turn, and Bill clicks on 2 parts. And as you may be able to guess, there's something here I'm guessing, and it's the Mount Rushmore. Well, R for Rushmore, and there it is, Mount Rushmore. Okay, so here is one of the ways of looking at things. And this image came down from Resource Library, and the round itself explained how things are going. So let's go on to the next one. This is very similar, but instead of clicking on parts of it, it's a Venetian blind effect, and you click on this button called Show More. And as we're doing it, It's going back and forth. Again, we don't know what it is. We're going to go a few times. It's going back and forth between Bill and myself. And at some point, okay, one of us is going, oh, I know what it is. Okay, well, in this particular case, it's Iwo Jima Memorial. So if we click on here, Iwo Jima Memorial, and there's the famous Iwo Jima Memorial. I've done this with some teenagers, and they say, what's those dudes on the mountain with the flag? You got to know what the answer is. You got to know what the name is. And this is, by the way, I believe it's in Arlington, Virginia. Let's go on to the next one. One more of this particular type game. Like I said, there's 23 different types of games. This is really the third one we're looking at. It's a variation of the same game. The question is, what is this U.S. city from a map? We say show more. And the author has specifically blocked out various parts so that as you do this, it's getting, you can see more and more of it, but the author's discretion as to what you see. At some point also, it's world capital. Hints appear over on this line here. Well, world capital, we look down here and we have George Mason Memorial Bridge. Well, okay, obviously it's Washington, D.C. We click on the W, there's Washington, D.C., and we're on to the next round, okay? So this next item here we have, next round here is called numbered line. And the question is, in what year did John F. Kennedy first appear on the half dollar? So again, Bill and Pete, we're competing against each other, and it's my turn. And I'm guessing this maybe, he died in 63. So I'm guessing a few years afterwards, I'm going to guess 1970 is when he appeared on the dollar. It's Bill's turn. Bill's going to say, well, I think it's about 1965, 66. Let's see, he's going to say 66, and we'll see what the answer is. Well, the answer is 1964. So Bill was closer. He gets 18 points. He's not that much closer than me. Again, it's a ratio of how much closer the winning player gets than the other players. So now this could be anything dealing with dates, anything dealing with numbers. I just recently discovered that the dirigible Macon, which is the Navy's dirigible, had a crew of 80 people. Very interesting. So let's go on. Now this next one here is game Q, and the answer, the thing is, there's an answer template here, and there are various questions here. Again, we can adjust the size of the questions here. We can select what question we want to answer. So if we click on this one here, a 10-pointer, what state name is the Spanish name of an imaginary island? Well, I happen to know it's California. So you click on the answer, and you click on California, you get 10 points. The Columbia is the border between what two states? So that's 25 points. There's 2 points involved. Okay, we'll click on that, and the Columbia is the border between Washington and Oregon. Okay, so this is played with this template here. But let me go on to the next one and show you what a different template would look like. Okay, here's a template in which it's a periodic table of elements. And again, we can click on any of the questions we want. An isotope, this element is often used to date dead things. Well, that's carbon. You're talking about carbon-14. Again, you click on the question and you click on the answer. What element doomed the Hindenburg? Well, it's hydrogen. Click on the question, click on the answer. Okay. So the next round deals with the concept of hierarchy or order. And what we have here is we have things on the left here, and the question is rank the following standard volume measurements with the largest on top. Now, the idea here is you can move from the left to the right. Once you move them to the right, you cannot move them back. You can move them up or down and adjust them. Also unique about this is that potential score is a function of the square of the number of items you drag to the right. Let's look at this. Let's say take a cup. We know what a cup is, and that's worth 1 point if we were to say check and see what we've done so far, which would not be a good idea. And we know a pint is bigger than a cup. Hey, that's worth 4 points. And we knew a teaspoon is less than a cup. That's worth 9 points. At any point, I can say, well, I'm comfortable with this. I don't know about these other things. Check what I've done. I've checked it. They're right. I have 9 points here, but I'm back to 0 squared. Okay, so I know a gallon, let's say, bigger than a pint. But let's say I screw up and say that an ounce is smaller than a teaspoon. Okay, obviously there's something wrong there. I check the button. They go back. I lose my turn. It's Bill's turn now. Bill can continue. If we have 10 items here, and we drag them all out at the same time and they're right, that's 100 points. If we drag them out one at a time and each one's right and we check it each time, that's only 10 points. So there's every effort to kind of risk what you know and drag them all out. Here's another example of the same type of game. Is you put the Lines of the Raven by Edgar Allan Poe back in order. So if we look at Once Upon a Midnight Dreary, While I Pondered Weak and Weary, etc. So any poem, anything that has a relationship of hierarchy or order can go out here. The reason I'm telling you this is I'm looking for people to help create the content. And we'll get into that a little bit when I finish up here. So when you get through with the game, there's a summary and you can see how you've played with everybody else. And it goes down, and you can see that. So let's go back. One other way of playing this game is going to the just get to round selection. Now, what we played was various rounds in what I call a set. A set is somebody's gone in and selected rounds to play in a competitive environment. Round selection lets you go in there and you can just play games. So what I have here are different tabs. Like education code looks at where you might find some information, where you might find different rounds. So if I was to say aerospace, we get the category only. We have things about flights in the Navy Air and stuff like that. I believe it's about the Blue Angels here. So everything is by education code. We have ACS code, which stands for Antoniak Classification System. I'm Pete Antoniak. We break things down to abstractions, events, locations, people, things in the universe. And if we're, for instance, to take locations, we break that down. We have like a geologic, we have like mountains and what have you. We can bring down these things from the website and we can play them just like we played in a set. Again, one of the reasons I'm telling you this is that we're looking for people that will want to put content together. We have keywords. If we pick up a keyword, we have things like, the Macon. That's interesting. That was the dirigible I saw last week at the Moffett Field. So going back to registration, I hope you have a good feel for how this game is. There's a lot to it. We're looking for people to get involved in creating the content. If we make money, you get royalties. If you put resources into resource libraries like maps or drawings, and you must own them. We don't want any problems with copyright infringement. And you can use them yourself, and you get credit for it. Or if somebody else uses it, you get credit for that too. You get part of their royalty stream. So that's it. I would like to thank you for taking the time to look at this. And I have several other videos going on. One of them is with more detail about how you make selections from just the rounds themselves and how you create content yourself, how you put content together. And then the other one is how you put rounds together to make a set. And that gives you the term of game master. So thank you, and you have a nice day.